Imagine waking up every morning knowing that a significant portion of your income is already accounted for by one single expense: energy. For many, this is an all too familiar reality, especially in low-income households where the cost of heating, cooling, and powering everyday life seems to rise at an unrelenting pace. From the gas pump to the grocery aisle, energy quietly touches every aspect of our daily lives. However, while energy affects everyone, its burden is not equally shared. But the impact of energy costs and the promise of green alternatives, like solar power, aren't felt equally. This project explores how energy systems deepen income inequality in the U.S., disproportionately burdening low-income communities. We'll examine the history of energy inequity, the financial weight of energy expenses on marginalized groups, and why the shift to renewables risks leaving the same people behind. How did we get here, and how can energy equity be achieved? We will first examine how energy affects everyday lives, and then go into why these problems exist.
Energy insecurity shows up in daily life in countless ways. Waking up in a drafty apartment where the heater barely works, yet the electric bill eats up nearly a quarter of your paycheck. Your kids wear coats indoors just to stay warm. Meanwhile, a few blocks away, families in better insulated homes with modern appliances pay far less to stay comfortable without thinking twice. A working-class family in a rural town might drive 30 miles just to get to work or buy groceries because there's no public transportation, while urban professionals hop on a subway, bike, or even walk to work. In low-income neighborhoods, old refrigerators, space heaters, and washing machines spike utility bills, making it costly just to keep food fresh, do laundry, or heat a room. In the summer, elderly residents without affordable air conditioning face deadly risks during heat waves. In winter, families ration heat to save money, raising the chances of illness. Children try to do homework in freezing or overheated apartments, sometimes working by flashlight because their parents are cutting back on electricity. Even daily routines suffer. Showering in lukewarm water, cooking fewer meals to avoid running the oven, or choosing between paying for utilities and buying school supplies. Meanwhile, wealthier households enjoy lower bills, healthier homes, and more stability, all because they can afford energy-efficient living spaces.
With leases and loans, both require, just certainly a decently high credit score, usually north the high 600s or 700s. So that can be a big one. Those are kind of all the really obvious ways in which lower income people could be kept away from the renewable energies. Another big one that people often don't think about is the condition of the home. And so what I mean by that is the roof has to be up to a certain standard, has to be, somewhat new and in good condition. And then same thing with the electrical work. So if you have an older, outdated home and you don't have the means to get a new roof, which also can, be $15,000 to $30,000, electrical work, which can be, $3,000 to $10,000 depending. All of those things have to be somewhat kind of up to date and new. And so while that's not as direct as just passing credit for the financing of solar itself, that's another one that really can affect if you can't afford to keep the house in the really kind of up to date condition. The home actually typically won't qualify to have solar installed on it.
This disparity highlights the financial vulnerability of the bottom 30% of income earners. These households are forced to allocate a larger portion of their budgets to energy, which means they often face a higher risk of energy poverty. These low-income households spend up to 15% of their total budget on transportation and utilities, compared to under 3% for the top 1%. A working-class family might pay $3,000 a year on gasoline and heating, a substantial portion of their income. Meanwhile, a top-earning household could spend triple that amount and barely notice. Wealthier households have more disposable income and are better equipped to absorb these costs, allowing them to shield themselves from the impact of energy price fluctuations. According to the Columbia School of Public Health, energy insecurity is defined as the inability to adequately meet household energy needs. An estimated 123.5 million U.S. households, about 27.2%, which is a little more than 1 in 4 households, experience some form of energy insecurity. This can include keeping homes at unsafe temperatures, skipping meals to afford bills, and being unable to use heating equipment and gas when needed.
To understand the inequities that exist, we must look into why the gap is so prominent. In the United States, redlining was a primary driver of housing and energy inequality. Redlining began during the New Deal in 1933 when the U.S. government faced a housing shortage. and started a program explicitly designed to increase and segregate America's housing stock. It was a discriminatory practice where African Americans and other people of color were left out of the new suburban communities and pushed instead into urban housing projects. This led to a huge systematic denial of access to home ownership and investment opportunities for many communities of color. Because of redlining and the historic divestment from minority neighborhoods, wealthier and wider areas tend to have significantly more tree coverage than lower income and minority communities. Less tree coverage leads to higher temperatures, contributing to the urban heat island effect and forcing residents to spend more on cooling their homes. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, in 92% of the urbanized areas surveyed, low-income blocks have less tree covers than high-income blocks. On average, low-income blocks have 15.2% less tree cover and are 1.5 degrees Celsius hotter than high-income blocks. This inequity between neighborhoods adds to the inequity of energy use. Housing quality also plays a major role. Lower income and minority households are more likely to live in older, less energy-efficient homes that leak cool air and require more energy to maintain comfortable temperatures. In fact, a small, poorly insulated apartment can cost more per square foot to heat or cool than a newer, larger, energy-efficient home. As a result, Hispanic, Black, and Native American households face disproportionately high energy burdens compared to their share of the national population, with median household energy burdens of 3.5%, 4.2%, and 4.2% respectively, compared to 2.9% for white households, according to the American Council for an Energy Efficient Economy. A working-class family might pay $3,000 a year on gasoline and heating, a substantial portion of their income. Meanwhile, a top-earning household could spend triple that amount and barely notice.
While the transition to green energy offers hope for lower costs and a cleaner future, it has not been equally accessible. Solar technology, for instance, has primarily benefited higher-income families who are 4 times more likely to install rooftop panels than low-income households. This is despite the fact that 42% of rooftop solar potential lies in low to moderate income communities. The upfront cost of solar installation, paired with the uneven access to financial incentives, have created barriers that prevent those who could benefit the most from joining the clean energy transition. Without intentional policies, the move towards renewables risks reinforcing the very inequalities it aims to solve. Energy insecurity is not just about high bills, it's about how deep historic inequalities continue to shape who can live comfortably and who struggles to meet basic needs. From redlining and housing discrimination, unequal access to modern technology like solar panels, energy systems in the U.S. have long favored wealthier, whiter communities while burdening low-income and minority households.